Hi guys, and welcome back to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whiskey blog. I'm Andy, and this is another review and another look at some of my favourite independent bottlers. Now, I've got another two for you today. One of them I've decided to include a little bit earlier because I had a couple of comments on the previous video of people saying, when are you going to look at this bottler, because that's what I can get near me. So I pulled it back a bit and sort of brought it a little bit forward. I've also realised that every single bottle is closed at the minute that I have. So I'm actually going to lead with the one that has been requested. And I'm going to open one. So what we have is a bottler that until a few years ago was actually a partnership between brothers, and it's now split. They've gone their own separate ways. It's Douglas Laing. And I have two bottlings here. These are just two that I pulled off the shelf. So I have a 12-year-old Lechig from their Old Particular range. Now, Old Particular is probably one of their go-to single malt ranges. One thing that's a little bit weird about it, it's a bit like what I said about Carnmore at 47.5%. They bottle all of the Old Particular at 48.4%. So another interesting ABV. Now, I've also got to apologise. If you can hear some squeaking in the background, that will be my Labrador puppy, Sky, having an absolute whale of a time with some form of squeaky toy. So apologies, but there's not much I can do about that. So here we go, a lovely sherried Lechig here, 12 years old, bottled at 48.4%. I think this was bottled, when does it say? Does it actually tell me? No, it doesn't, but it's a single cask, natural colour, non-chill filtered, 352 bottles. It does tell me, bottled in November 2019 after being distilled in February 2007. I don't actually think I bought this until early last year, so I've just not got around to it basically. But a lovely colour, and there you go guys, there is the label. Very, very fetching livery, I must say. I've got a couple of Old Particulars. I'm not saying I've got a lot, because to be honest I don't. Not for any untoward reason. I think I actually did a blog post on the website recently about what value means to me, and a couple of other bits and pieces, an opinion piece. So feel free to read it, maltboxwhisky.com. And I basically just gave a few bullet points as to what I find in terms of value for money and what defines it for me, because it's going to be different to everybody. It really is. And for me, one of them was competition. And frankly, there's a lot of competition in the independent bottling market. And if I can find a whiskey from the same distillery for a similar, if not older age, possibly younger, with good cask selection, compare those two together as well, good strength and well priced, I will pick the one that's slightly cheaper. Because ultimately, if they are comparable, I'll probably go for that. I'd rather save £10 on the front end for a similar hogshead cask, for a similar age, for a similar strength. I can use that towards something else. Sometimes it's more than £10, to be honest. But there we are. And something else, so Douglas Laing are also very, very handy at making blended malts. Now this is one of their blended malts, and this is Timorous Beastie. This is the 18-year-old Timorous Beastie, and this is actually the whiskey that I'm going to be opening for you. So this is bottled at 46.8%. They do have a nice little range, actually, of blended malts. So you've got Timorous Beastie, which is their Highland blended malt. I believe, off the top of my head, I could be wrong, it consists of Blair Athol, Glengarry, and Dalmore, I think, but don't quote me on that, guys. I think that's what it's made of. I don't think they tell you, but I believe that's what it is. So that's their Highland blended malt, Timorous Beastie. It does come in no age statement and a 10-year-old, I think. They then have a space cider called Scallywag, which has got a really cute sort of dog on the front of it. They've then got Rock Oyster, although I think it's been changed to something else now, Rock something, because people didn't like the thought of oysters, which is just weird. Rock Island, I think it might be called now. And that's Island whiskies, so that's Arran, Islay, Jura, the Orkneys, etc. And I think they've got a Lowlander called the Epicurean, which effectively I think is pretty much just a blend of Glenkinchie and Islay Bay, however you say it. Could be a bit of Bladnoch in there, I'm not too sure. But But there we are, they've got a few, if you can't tell already. So this is an 18-year-old blended malt, Highland blended malt. I picked this up at a really great price, actually online in a sale recently. I think I got the last one. So sorry if you're wanting a bargain there, I can't provide you with one, I'm afraid, because I got it. But this usually retails, I think, about 68 quid. I picked it up for about 55, 56. So I thought, do you know what? I've never tried it before. Let's take a punt. Again, you probably saw it at the bottom there, non-chill filtered and no colouring. So it just goes to show, independent bottling isn't all about single malts or single casks. There's a bottle that I'm going to be looking at in another review, Berry Brothers. They do a great range of their own blended whiskies as well. And I love a good blended whiskey, particularly blended malts. I find that blended malts are so overlooked. So overlooked. Some of them are teaspooned, which is something else we'll be getting onto in a minute. Yeah, that's going to take a little while to open up. Just pop the cork, so that's going to take a good 15 minutes to open up. Needless to say, I will give it another shot before I finish the review, but you're probably not going to get a hell of a lot of notes out of me today. What the hell is that dog doing? Right, next bottle list. There's Douglas Laing. What I didn't mention, when I mentioned there's two brothers, there was Douglas Laing and there was Andrew Laing, I think it was Andrew. And they basically divided the business. So Andrew basically took Old Malt Cask, what's the one that I've got up there? First Editions and a couple of others. And Douglas Laing basically retained Old Particular and the blended malts. So there was a bit of a parting, and they've both got their own different sides of the businesses that they run, but they're both independent bottlers in their own ways now as well, which is a fun little fact. Now, the next independent bottler that I'm looking at is one that's quite popular. They've been around for since 2012, I think. 2012, so they've been around for nearly a decade now. God, that's scary. And they're Little Bottles of Joy, shall we say. And I use the word little bottles intentionally because the bottler that I'm talking about here is That Boutique Whiskey Company. And I've got 5 bottles here. Again, they're just ones that I have on the shelves. I've got another few in a couple of boxes under the stairs. They're not open at the minute because I finished their Ben Riach recently. That would have been my open bottle for this, but I don't have any at the minute. So Boutique Whiskey Company, That Boutique Whiskey Company, basically headed up by Atom Brands, which has connections with Master of Malt through ownership. But a really, really cool little independent bottler. Quite literally little bottles. Now, they only bottle in 50 centilitres. So you got 70 centilitres, which is a normal standard, I say standard, it's European size really, isn't it? Bottle, so 70. Boutique is 50. That's my only gripe with Boutique. I've got to say, I might as well say it, that is my one gripe with them because you don't really get as much whiskey for the money. However, what they tend to do is they tend to buy a lot of private individuals rather than going to distilleries or whiskey brokers. So sometimes they can find casks that haven't seen the light of day for quite a while, or some really unique and pretty weird and funky stuff. So what I have here, first of all, I have an 11-year-old Colila. Now, the labels are probably one of the best bits about this bottle. I mean, it's pretty cool, isn't it? It's pretty cool. So you've got someone looking out from Colila Distillery to see Brian Blessed from Flash Gordon. I think that's who it is. Riding towards Colila from the island of Jura. So that's Jura in the background because you can actually see Jura and Colila are very, very close. They're opposite each other. A very small stretch of water separates them. So all of these bottles have kind of funky, in-jokey, geeky, whiskey-based cartoons. So again, we've got Port Dundas, an 8-year-old Port Dundas grain. We saw that I had a signatory Port Dundas. This is Boutique's 8-year-old Port Dundas, bottled at 53.6%. Again, guys, like the others, non-chill filtered and natural colour, which is great stuff. These labels are all individually produced by a lady called Emily Chappell. It could be Chappelle. I'm very, very sorry, Emily, if you're watching this. My pronunciation of everything is terrible. I just know that you've got 2 L's at the end of your name, and I don't want to sound uncultured. So here with the Port Dundas, you've got varying types of grains on there, which I think is pretty cool. You know, you've got wheat, you've got blue corn, you've got maize, etc., etc. So that's an 8-year-old Port Dundas. We have then got another grain, this time a little bit older, a 30-year-old North British. And there you've got a Bond villain stroking a cat. The guy there that I'm assuming is supposed to be James Bond actually does look like Timothy Dalton, the back head of Timothy Dalton. I don't know why, but there you go. So there's a 30-year-old North British distillery. The next 2 that I have, in a moment, when I go back to this Timorous Beastie 18-year-old. Oh, it's very soft. Oh yeah. Lots of green apple, bit of vanilla, and some lovely sort of like warm porridge with honey starting to come out there now. That's going to be lovely when it's opened up a little bit further. The next 2 that I have are, again, blended malts. I love blended malts, man. So here we have blended malt Scotch whisky, blend number 3, aged 21 years. And this is batch 2 of blend number 3. So they basically, for their blended malts and blends, they have a different catalogue of blends and they have different editions of that blend as well. So this is obviously batch 2. I say editions, I mean batches. So this is bottled at 47.1%, non-chill filtered natural colour, again 50 centilitres. But what you'll see in the background of this, hopefully, if my camera plays ball, on one of the screens at this simply rousing looking conference, Jesus, I've never been to a rousing concert, you'll see a little teaspoon on the screen. I wonder what that means. Now, the other one that I have is a 26-year-old blended malt. This is blend number 1. This is my second bottle of this, but my first one was prior to them actually having age statements on the bottle, because they used to keep the age statements off. They were all no age statement. So they actually had some quite old stuff, but they never used to shout about it. And I'm kind of glad they did switch to ages, because ultimately age is just a number. If the whiskey's good, the whiskey's good. So this is blend number 1. So we've had blend number 3. This is blend number 1. 26 years old, batch 4, bottle 83 of 322, bottled at 48.3%. Now, if you look at this, we've moved on from concerts. We're on some sort of Stonehenge-esque gathering to usher in a spoony solstice, because there it is again, guys. There's that big spoon, massive spoon, and I don't mean the fella behind the camera either. In fact, it's that side. I am a spoon, right? I'm doing everything in reverse. So there you go. If you didn't see the spoon on the other one, because I might have done that wrong as well, but there you go, there it is. So there's a spoon on that one, and there's a spoon on this one as well. Now, what that spoon means is that these are teaspooned malts. Now, teaspooning is a very, very simple process. What you basically do is you put effectively a small amount, aka a teaspoon, of one distillery's whiskey into the cask of another distillery's whiskey. Therefore, that cask can no longer be called whatever that distillery is. Ergo, for example, let's just pluck one out of thin air, shall we, for no particular reason. If you have a cask of Glenfiddich and you add a teaspoon of Balvenie, it is no longer a Glenfiddich. It is a teaspoon blended malt. Now, if you switch those around, I know, right? If you have a cask of Balvenie that you then put a teaspoon of Glenfiddich, for example, into it, or maybe Kinninvie, it is no longer a Balvenie, because you cannot technically call it a single malt anymore, because the whiskey that's contained within that vatting or that cask is no longer from a single distillery. Ergo, single malt plus single malt from a different distillery, no longer a single malt. But that is what I like about Boutique Whiskey Company. You've got little Easter eggs like that I think are really, really cool. I I didn't mention Balvenie for any particular reason when I was holding this up, by the way. No reason. No reason. So those are two really, really cool little independent bottlers there. Again, my only qualm with Boutique is 50 centilitres, and I know that Boutique Dave and Dr. Sam will be rolling their eyes at that. But they're both great guys. That is one thing I love about Boutique in particular. Like, the brand ambassadors are just absolutely fantastic. You've got Boutique Dave Worthington, ex-Whisky Discovery, and you've got Dr. Sam Simmons as well, who I believe got kicked out of Canada a few years ago, and we've been stuck with him ever since. I don't think they want him back. So if you guys are both watching, keep up the good work. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Love a bit of Boutique, love a bit of Douglas Laing as well. And there's another 2 bottlers for you to explore, guys. That Boutique Whisky Company and Douglas Laing. Now, I'm going to box it off now, so thanks very much for watching. Feel free to check out the website, maltboxwhisky.com. I am on Twitter at maltbox. I'm on Instagram at maltboxwhisky. Feel free to subscribe, but if not, no sweat. Thanks for watching. See you soon.